Hey everyone, and welcome back to part 2 in a two-part series of the restoration of this Sony Trinitron Video 8 combo here. It's got a little 5-inch screen in it which is now working perfectly since we replaced the caps in part 1 because they were completely rotten. They leaked out all over the power supply board, unfortunately. When I first got this, the VCR side wasn't working at all. There was absolutely no life in it whatsoever. But now, since replacing those capacitors, we're now getting a little bit of power going to the VCR in that the heads are spinning up. There is still a tape stuck inside, and unfortunately the eject mechanism is not working. And along with the play, fast forward and rewind, they're not working either. So in today's video we're going to be having a look at the VCR and an in-depth review and look at it. I'm going to take it all apart, so I have the service manual for this. And I shall document exactly what I've been doing to this to try and get it working. So for that and hopefully more, stay tuned and I'll see you right after the intro. So I've just bought one of these recently. It's an ESR meter. It's an ESR 2051C. Quite a little nifty device actually. It will let you test capacitors while they're in circuit. Although you must remember to discharge them first if you're going to use it, because you could end up doing damage to this unit. It's rechargeable, it's got a built-in battery, and it lasts quite a long time actually. I've only charged it once so far. I've got a chart there showing you typical readings for good capacitors. You've got your capacitor range across the top there, and your voltages down the side, so you can cross-reference basically what reading you're getting. So it's still early days for me using this. I'm still learning it, and while you're measuring things in circuit, you can sometimes get skewed results because other components around those capacitors you're testing could affect the results you're getting. So probably really going forward you are still better off reading these things out of circuit for an absolute reading. So we're going to do some ESR readings now on this daughter board from the power supply. This part of the board distributes the power to the VCR, TV tuner and the TV itself. That one's reading 2.87 ohm, so that's definitely not good, is it? That one's reading 3.54 ohms. I think it was this one at the back here, if I can get in it. That one's just making the display go crazy, so that's not right. That one's reading 1.7 ohms or 1.69 ohms, and that one there was about 2.5 ohms I think. Going by the chart on the front of this ESR reader, these caps are all reading out of range. Or 3.23 ohms. So those brown caps I think are all bad. Ironically, that purple capacitor that I thought was bad turned out to be okay. It's only reading at 0.23 ohms, and that blue one there was okay. I think it was 0.4 or 0.7, so that one's fine. So they definitely want swapping. Well, a little yellow one. Let's try that one. Is that a bipolar one? No, it's not. I'm glad there's no bipolar caps on this, because some of those could be quite expensive. Oh, that's reading 1.77 ohms. So that one might be due for a change as well. Oh, there's another one there, look. Sorry if you can't read that display very well. It's hard to try and get in it. Crikey. That one's reading. That one's flashing everywhere. Saying probes open, does that mean it's bad? Flashing up momentarily. 2.5 or 4.4. But it's saying probe open or ESR 25, but it's off. It's just flashing. So that was probably bad as well. So I think I'm going to swap all those out. All those brown ones. Haven't tested that one yet, but that yellow can go, and that one there as well. That black one, is it black? And it's brown. Luckily I've got all of these. Just turn that down. So yeah, we'll swap these out next. But I'm going to call it a day today and do that tomorrow I think. And then I think that VCR deck will come back to life. Fingers crossed. So, but we'll see tomorrow. Well, if it'll be tomorrow for me, for all of you it'll be just moments later. Okay, so it's the next day for me. I've replaced all those capacitors on that daughter board and it's still not working. It's still not doing anything more than it was doing the other day. So next we're going to have a look at the voltages of the yellow plug and the red plug. The yellow plug there powers the VCR and the red plug powers up the tuner board. According to the circuit diagram there, the yellow plug, pin 1, should be 6 volts. Pin 5 regulated 5 volts. Pin 6 unswitched 5 volts. And pin 8 drive 9 volts. So let's have a look, shall we, and see what outputs we've got. Just going to measure that yellow socket there. So according to the manual here, we should be getting 6 volts on pin 1. Getting 7.6, probably because there's no load. And then on pin 5 it should be 5 volts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we are. And another 5 volts on switch. That first one's regulated on pin 6. There we go. That's about right. And then we should be getting 9 volts on pin 8. There we are. A little bit over there, but like I said, none of this is on load, under load. So we know that the video deck is getting power. While we're here, let's test that red socket, which I think goes to the tuner. So pin 1 should be 9 volts. And it's bang on. That's regulated, and pin 2 switch 6 volts. Oh, nothing there. But maybe because it's not on the load. It says switched. And the regulated pin 3 should be 5 volts. Yeah, that's about right. And then the other two are earths. Or grounds rather. So switch 6 volts. Nothing on that one, like I said. Maybe it's because it's not been switched on. Though I don't know why it wouldn't be, but I know the 40 volts is working fine for the TV, and we know the fan's working okay. That's the other one there, basically, that's the fan. So that all looks okay then. So that looks like there is a problem on this side of things somewhere for the video deck. So at least we know the voltage outputs are okay. A little bit high, but like I said, they're not under load. I should imagine it will drop when the motors are running quite considerably, because motors tend to draw the amps. It's going to power the unit down. There we are, that 9 volts has dropped off now. If I power it back on again, the heads will spin and it should be less than 11 volts. Yeah, but it has gone down a little bit, and when the head stops spinning it will probably go back up to 11 volts. There we go. So yeah, I'm happy with the power supply. I don't think there's anything else wrong with that. So like I said, we'll carry on looking on the video deck side. Okay, we're going to get this out next. It's got to remove this one here first, apparently, according to the service manual. This is the panel that has the screen adjustment on, the tracking adjustment, and the input select. So there's one cable that goes from this to the actual TV itself, and one that goes to the actual board on the VCR. So, we've got the tuner here, and that's the VTR. It's like this board here pulls out. Wow, look at that. I wonder if that's a little module that's specific to country location. Have to look in the manual for that. This board here, AF38, is actually the audio board. The reason I mentioned it being regional before was because of the fact that it can be removed. On some early VCRs, the RF module would be for certain countries, and it would be interchangeable. Yeah, I can see some more capacitors down there. Wouldn't be surprised if they've got problems. Look at the power supply unit. Oh, hang on a second though. That's on the think that's on the board underneath, the tuner. I had to refer to the service manual again to get the VTR out because of all the different cables that connect this thing to the tuner. First of all, you need to remove that shielding there. It shows 2 screws in the manual, but there's actually only 1 on mine. There we are. Well, the tape's not laced up, so that's something. Guess I don't have to contend with that. One of the things I noticed about this VTR block on this machine is there are a lot of connecting points that aren't actually connected to anything, which leads me to suspect this unit was actually used in probably other machines. If anybody knows what other devices share this deck, please let me know in the comments. To look at this physically, there seems to be nothing out of place. It's very clean. I can't see anything physically wrong with it. Could probably wind that out actually by hand. That gear's not even engaged. So I guess that engages with that when it gets up to this point, after it's come up. So we've got quite a few points of contact here. There's nothing physically holding this in place now, apart from some cables. There's a thick ribbon cable there next to my finger, the white one, which goes into the tuner board. And there's a thin black cable, a single cable with a plug, and then another grey cable plugged into the tuner board at the back. There we go, that's the grey one released. And that's the white one. Oh, and there's a grounding cable from the tuner, RF tuner, to the back of the video cam there on the back of the heads. And there's that single black cable that has a plug and socket. Then you just need to carefully cut that cable tie there. Make sure I'm not catching any wires. Should be it. Is that it? Something is still attached somewhere. I see it. It's the timer unit. There's always just one more thing, isn't there? In this case, it's the cable connecting the VCR to the little timer control panel. There we are. So many ICs and more of those rubber grommets. You're missing one again. Got 3 there. There's one at the back missing. Unless it's dropped out somewhere just then. Again, just like I mentioned with the TV in the previous episode of this, there are only 3 grommets. I don't know why there's only 3, and I actually thought there was another one missing. No surface mount capacitors yet. It's amazing. Little backup battery there, look. That'll probably be for the memory for the clock. Turns out there was actually 2 of those battery backups. I measured them and they both seem to still be taking a charge as well. So, let's have a quick look at this. So all that at the back there then is a tuner. And the video output circuit and input. It's pretty clean in there. Really didn't want to have to open all this up, but needs must. Can't see anything leaking anywhere. A couple of those Sanyo purple caps down at the bottom there. Sometimes they can be bad. Well, on the devices anyway. The thing I decided to try next was loading the tape manually, getting it to lace up. These little devices have a mode selector switch. In fact, most VCRs do. You can do this by gently pushing the gear in either direction to find out which way it is for it to lace up. Just winding it back and forward again can sometimes get things going, but unfortunately in this instance it didn't. When I first looked at the gearing on this, I thought something doesn't look quite right here. It looked like that white gear there that's to a slight angle is jammed, like it's been forced into that position. When you look at the gear behind it, it's actually tapered in slightly. I guess it's supposed to be like this because obviously the angle of the drum and the loading ring. Just on the left hand side there is the mode select switch gear. This is the thing that moves and selects the different positions on the little PCB. This is the thing that can have dirty contacts and can cause malfunctions and even jamming. But when I manually moved the loading ring here to lace up the tape, it moved freely without any problems. Next thing I decided to do was to test the motor itself, the one that is used to lace up the tape and take that loading ring around. I've got 4.5 volts here off a little AC adapter, detached the cable and applied a voltage, and sure enough it worked. To return it to the unlaced position, you just need to reverse the voltage, but unfortunately the take-up spool didn't take the cassette tape back into its housing, and I had to manually wind this back in. Decided to do the same thing with the tape eject motor, and in order to do this, to not cause any damage, I had to remove the motor itself from the side, and sure enough it worked in both directions. And of course you need to make note of which position this is in, depending on which position the load carriage is in for the cassette itself, because the cam pole there needs to line up with the mechanism. Next up, it's time to remove this tape that's been stuck in here for God knows how long. You don't actually need to remove the side of the motor mechanism here to get it out. You can access the lever through a small hole in the side, but I just wanted to show you this for demonstration purposes of what part you actually need to press to get the tape out. The loading carriage on my example here was very stiff and sticky and sluggish, but after cleaning off the old grease with some IPA, this is how it works now, and this is how you can release the cassette going through that side hole I mentioned before. And as you can see, the cassette is entering perfectly now and going to the correct position. Previously, the cassette would go in halfway and the tape loading mechanism would try and pull it down before the cassette had gone all the way in. Let's eject it, let's try to push it out. But sadly, the tape eject mechanism still won't give me the tape back. I have to manually release it. The motor is working both ways, and it will take the tape and it will eject it when I press the manual release. I suspect the reason for this is because what I'm actually doing when I'm pressing the manual release, I'm doing the job of the mode selector switch. When that turns, when you press a button, the solenoid should probably kick in and it should operate a switch which will tell the loading mechanism to eject the tape. And I still have no tape transport controls. The heads will spin when I power the unit on now the tape is back in, but playing fast forward or rewind are still not working. In fact, I'm not seeing any action out of the mode selector motor at all. So I think this is definitely where the problem lies. There was just no control for the mode selector switch motor. Next up, I decided to start checking the capacitors on the VCR side of things with the ESR meter, and sure enough I found quite a number of them out of spec, all sort of pointing towards the 5+ ohms. There are quite a lot of electrolytic caps on this board, and some of them are bipolar ones which I couldn't replace, but as you can see I replaced quite a number here, and I had to lay some of them down on the side because they were too tall compared to the old ones. There was 2, maybe 3 caps on this tape position sensor board here as well. They're actually on the opposite side of this board. This is also where the motors connect. But in order to test the caps in situ I needed to get the board out to get to the other side of it. But it turns out that these ones tested out okay. And that's the timing belt there. At this point I'd also put some contact cleaner and sprayed it in on that mode select switch just in case. But even after replacing those capacitors that were out of spec and doing the mode selector clean, it still didn't do anything extra. It was still doing exactly what it did before, disappointingly. So I'm right back to square one basically. The only thing I've got going here out of this VCR deck is the eject mechanism. That's just by manually releasing it on the side. The tape now goes in and out freely, but not using the eject button. Well, here we are at the end of the video, and unfortunately I didn't get the video 8 deck working in the end, despite all my efforts. I thought I was getting pretty close actually towards the end there, but still there was no activity from that drive motor that does the lacing up business and activates the mode switch. Although the TV is working absolutely fine, I'm pleased to say, and it's an absolute superb picture as you would expect from a Sony. Apparently the tube in this was also used on one of their PVM monitors. I found that out when I was doing some research, though I can't remember which model it was. But the pitch on this, the grill, when you look at it on the tubes, when you look closely, is very, very fine for such a small set. On other TVs that own this size, you can actually see the grille, you can see the gaps in it, but on this it looks absolutely fantastic. It's almost like a computer monitor, it's that fine. And it's just a lovely picture quality. I shall enjoy using this in future videos. I'll probably use it for gaming as well. If anybody knows which other device shares the tape mechanism that's in this, please let us know in the comments, along with anything else you think I might be able to try. Because if it's been used on another device, we can get a model number, we might find out somebody else has had the same problems with it be sharing the same deck. I documented pretty much everything. If I did miss anything, I'm sorry about that. But like I said before in other videos, they're not how-to videos, they're just how I do things to try and get these things working. And of course I've gone into this with no knowledge whatsoever of what was involved, because I've never had one of these units before or opened one up. But every time you open up something new you've not been in before, you learn something new. Obviously I have an ESR reading meter now as well to use in future videos, which will really help. Well, I guess that just about brings me to the end of this video. I hope you've all enjoyed watching this with me. It's been certainly a learning curve making it, and maybe there will be a part 3 in the future, who knows. Having the service manual is great and all, but sometimes you just need to see somebody taking something apart, don't you, to see how it's done. To see any of those little hidden cables and other things, and hidden screws, for example, that the manuals or service manuals don't always cover. Well, I guess that just leaves me to say, as always, thanks for watching, and until the next video, I'll be seeing you. And if you did enjoy watching this video, you may want to take a look at some of my other videos on similar themes. I'm always buying something on eBay, some more piece of technology, and trying to repair it. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe and share. Thanks for watching.